All right, so I think we're ready to get started. Now that the elections are over, we can focus on some important stuff. Hey, prospects just asked you about SOC 2. Now what? I'm Gregory. Hi, everyone. I'm a compliance solution consultant here at Scytale. I've spent the last 2 or so years speaking with hundreds of startups and tech companies around information security compliance frameworks like SOC 2, the challenges that they present and the solutions around that. And today I'm excited to share with you a quick overview on SOC 2, what it is, how you're going to be able to achieve that, and how it's maybe a little bit easier than you might have thought. Before we get straight into it, just a couple of things from my side. I absolutely love to take any questions. So at any point throughout the call, if anything comes to mind, please do pop your questions over in the questions tab, and we'll make sure to address those all towards the end of the call. Secondly, of course, this is a very introductory conversation around SOC 2 and the technology around this. But of course, if you're looking to understand this in a bit more context of your business or would like to explore it further, at any point, you're able to go ahead and book a call with us on the banner that's listed above. All right. So every company needs security compliance. You need this to boost sales, to be able to gain deals, to get into markets, to be able to establish yourself, but also to be able to reduce security risks and comply with regulations that are occurring around this. So we need compliance, but it can be a huge pain. With often some tight deadlines that come around this, you're ending up with a process that is super time consuming and super complicated and is often incurring a lot of high costs from things like manual processes, loss of trust through customers and potential business through that capacity. And this compliance is having a real burden on B2B companies. If we're looking at the time spent on compliance, it's some really exorbitant amounts from what we're seeing. And the consequences of doing this through typical manual processes are present there as well. So let's just take things a little bit back a second. What is SOC 2 anyways? SOC, or the Systems and Organization Controls 2, is a compliance standard that ensures that service providers securely manage data to protect the privacy and interests of their clients. Why does it matter? Achieving SOC 2 compliance builds trust with customers, demonstrates your commitment to data security, and provides a competitive advantage in your market. And this is what we're seeing a lot of the time. In order for you to be able to work with specific clients or enter a specific market, they want to see that they can trust you with their data. And the easiest way to do that is to show that you have a report like a SOC 2 report. The SOC 2 has key focus areas, or what we call trust service criteria, and you've got 5 of them. We're looking at security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. With SOC 2, it's a fairly customizable or flexible framework. What that means is you can kind of pick and choose from these topics what is actually relevant based on your business specifically, what you're doing, the kind of data you process, and your customers as well. The only compulsory or mandatory topic there that you need to be doing is the security elements. So that's a little bit about the SOC 2 overview. Before we dive a bit deeper into that, we are, of course, focusing on SOC 2 here, but just to let you know that Scytale's solution does support a large number of security and privacy frameworks. And the idea is, of course, that you're able to then build your compliance portfolio as you're facing various demands that the industry might present. Scytale takes on a fairly unique approach to compliance, and we're calling this a hybrid approach. What this means is we have a technology, an automation platform, which is going to automate a ton of the processes around your compliance. It's going to give you full navigation of what to do. You're going to be able to manage all your documents and processes and give you all the tools you need around the process. But what we've done as well here at Scytale is we've taken the platform and paired this with a full professional consulting service. What this means is that you're going to have a dedicated expert working with you right from the start of the process all the way up until your SOC 2 audit. You'll be having weekly meetings where they give you all the expertise, the advisory, but also the project management elements of this as well. And we found that this kind of unique approach of technology as well as consulting is really the fastest and most efficient way to get a compliance standard like SOC 2 in place. When we look at our technology, our platform, there's a bunch of really exciting features, which I'm going to pause on for now because we are going to jump into that demo very shortly. But just before I jump into that, a quick highlight on the consulting elements or approach that would be required for a SOC 2 process. So right from the beginning, we're going to come in with our consultants and define your scope. What does that mean? As I mentioned, SOC 2 is super customizable. So you've got different topics and you need to pick and choose what's actually relevant for you. We're going to help you figure that out. So you only need to focus on what's applicable, what's relevant, and you can ignore all the other stuff. From there, we're going to go ahead and do a full gap analysis. What does that mean? We're going to look at exactly where you are, exactly where you need to be, and build you a plan to then get you there. We're going to look at things like your existing policies, see how they check out. If not, that's okay. We're obviously here to help you work on them. And then, as I mentioned, weekly meetings from start to finish to really drive you through the process on what to do next, how to do it, and reviewing that it's been done correctly, all the way up until an internal audit where we're going to make sure that you're 100% good to go, because the last thing you want to do is obviously spend all this time or money through a process and then have a bad SOC 2 report. So that's a little bit about the consulting or the managed services of our solution. Before I jump into the demo of our platform and how the SOC 2 process is going to work, I think it would be useful to go through a basic timeline of a SOC 2 process. To give you guys a quick bottom line or a spoiler alert, so you don't have to look at all these objects and numbers and add them in your head. If you're looking at a SOC 2 process, you're looking at about 3 months for a type 1 or about 6 months for a type 2. What that means is in the beginning of the process, once everything is onboarded, we're going to define that scope, what is going to be applicable. From there, we need to set up the controls and help work on the gaps. Once we've solved all the gaps, the things that you would need to implement, we're going to go ahead and conduct the audit with our CPA auditor. Once the audit is in place, we then issue your audit report, be that a type 1 or a type 2, depending on what is relevant for your positioning. So let's jump straight into the platform and show you where this is all kind of taking place. All right. So this is the platform. The logic of the platform is super clear, and that's for you to achieve and to maintain compliance. So everything on the platform is kind of geared towards that. You open up the platform and you've got a very nice overview of your project. So you've got a task management system, the management of your policies, the monitoring of controls, and of course, the progress that you're making with your framework. Now, on the left-hand side here, we have all these modules related to compliance, and we're going to kick things off with integrations. So the first step here is for us to integrate with your tech stack as much as possible. Think cloud providers or code source management tools or ticketing tools or HR tools, communication tools, etc. Through these integrations, we're now going to be able to actually monitor your SOC 2 compliance. So we can see what is in place, if it is in line with SOC 2. If it's not in line with SOC 2, we're going to be able to flag that, tell you how to fix that, and automatically collect all the evidence data that you would need for a SOC 2 audit. And that's all going to take place on the left-hand side here in the monitoring module. So I'm going to head on over to monitoring, and simplicity has very much kind of led the way for us here. What you see in front of you is all these controls, these things that you need to have in place to be SOC 2 compliant. We've grouped them by subjects that are super easy to manage or delegate within your team. At the top, you can filter by owner. You can go into different frameworks. In this case, I'll, of course, choose SOC 2. Now, if we go into a specific subject, let's say, for example, cloud security, we can now see all of the controls, the things that need to be in place to be SOC 2 compliant. We can see who in your team is responsible for that. And the most practical or the most relevant part here is, of course, the status. So we now have a very clear indication of where we need to work and where we need to focus on to be SOC 2 compliant. We can understand what is healthy, cool, that's already compliant, forget about it. But we obviously need to attend things that are flagged. Now, let's look at a workflow or an example when something has been flagged, meaning it's not SOC 2 compliant. We can look at something like encryption of backups in the cloud database service. We click on the control and a bunch of information is going to pop up. And what I just want to share with you all is the automatically collected data at the bottom here, which is basically a summary of what we can see through the integration. In this case, the control is for the encryption of backups, and we've got these engine types. Is there encryption in place? No, there isn't, and that's why it's been flagged. Furthermore, for every control in a framework like SOC 2, you need to prove to the auditor that you have these things in place. And what you need to do is produce evidence. Evidence can be in the form of screenshots of data sets or logs or code. And we're going to be doing all of this automatically for you. So we can go ahead and download the IPE. It's a PDF log document to prove the status of that control. Now, you can imagine to go ahead and produce all this documentation for a whole bunch of different controls, knowing it's correct. To do that all manually is going to be a huge amount of work that you're not going to have a lot of surety about as well when going through an auditor process. Now, going back to this control, we saw that the control was flagged, which is fantastic to know, but you need to then understand how you're going to fix that, or what do you do next? So as soon as we flag an issue, we are immediately creating a task to tell you sort of what to do and how to fix that and bring it back in line with compliance. We're going to head on over to the to-do module where all the tasks are immediately being pushed. And eventually, if we go into a specific task, not just around things that need to be done, but also maintenance in future, when you go into a specific task, you'll actually get a nice set of instructions to guide you on exactly what to do and how to make that SOC 2 compliant. So that is what I would call the main compliance engine of the platform, is to be able to plug into your systems, to monitor your SOC 2 compliance. If things are not in place, we're going to flag them, tell you how to fix them, and automatically collect all that evidence documentation as well. Now, there's a lot of other important processes to SOC 2, and one of them is, of course, policies. So let's jump into the policy section on the left-hand side here. Policies can be an absolute nightmare to draft. They can be a mission. They often involve or require support from legal teams. And so we've really simplified the process here at Scytale. First thing we're going to do is look at all your existing policies, see how they check out. If not, as I mentioned, that's okay. We're here to help you work on all of those. We're also going to provide you with all of the SOC 2 templates that you're going to need for these policies. So at the top, you can just navigate to the SOC 2 framework. And let's say, for example, that you don't have a incident management policy. From here, you're just going to edit whatever's highlighted in yellow, and you're going to then have all your policies set up and in place, and of course, reviewed by our consulting team. So super simple way to set up policies and make sure that they are in place according to the SOC 2 requirements. You're also going to be able to do your risk assessment on the platform. So we're going to be able to automatically pick up on risks. We're going to be assigning risk scores. We're going to be looking at who's managing that risk, working on mitigation plans with you, which you can obviously customize in your own way as well. Part of these requirements as well are also looking or requiring you to do a vendor assessment. So you need to look at your vendors, the kind of data that they're processing, the potential impacts of that. And of course, you're going to be doing that on the Scytale platform as well. From here, you're going to be able to look at all your existing vendors, the kind of data they process, the potential impacts of that, and how you're managing that as well. What's super useful on the platform as well is with a framework like SOC 2, you will need to have a lot of your staff undergo security awareness training. And this is also going to be given to you on the platform. So we can navigate over to the training module on the bottom here. And in the training module, we are providing you with all the basic training or the general security awareness training that your staff would need for a compliance framework like SOC 2. Don't get me wrong, it's not like a master's degree in cybersecurity, super simple training course, but that's kind of the idea of the platform, is to give you everything you need to get this done in the most efficient way possible. Some other important parts of the platform include people management, where here you're going to be able to track and manage your employees in terms of that training, have visibility on what's been done, if they've reviewed or accepted policies that need to be reviewed by those employees, which is all managed and automated from Scytale's platform. You're also going to be able to do user access reviews, another requirement depending on how you are structuring your scope for SOC 2, which is important as well. The last thing I want to share with you guys on the platform is the actual audit process itself. So once you've gone through all of the controls, everything is healthy, you've done the training, your policies, your risks, you're good to go. The last step is, of course, the actual audit. Now, we're going to head on over to the audit module on the left-hand side here. And the first thing that we're going to do is have our consultants run through a full internal audit to make sure you're 100% good to go. We'll head into the framework, in this case, SOC 2, for example. And from here, we can see all the controls or the criteria according to the framework. We can go into specific controls that have been set up. We can download the evidence or the documentation that is linked from the other parts of the platform. And we can then go ahead and internally approve that once everything is placed. Once everything is internally approved, we're going to go ahead and bring in the official CPA auditor to run through and conduct the SOC 2 audits, where he will then approve and manage the audits on the platform as well. So super simple way to manage the audits. And yeah, on that note, I'm happy to share that Scytale does have a 100% success rate with SOC 2 reports with all of our clients with no deviations. So that is a run through our solution from a platform perspective, a consulting perspective as well. And of course, look forward to welcoming any questions from your end. Cool. See, we have a question. How long is a SOC 2 report valid for? A SOC 2 report is going to be valid for 12 months. So it is something that you need to look at a continuous basis, not just for you to satisfy these compliance requirements, but also for you to ensure that you have continuously baked in the standard in the way that you are conducting and operating your business and your infrastructure as well. See, we have another question here. How do I know which trust service criteria to choose? This is a good question. At the beginning of the call, I mentioned that SOC 2 has a bunch of different trust service criteria or topics that you can choose from. How are you going to know what to choose? This very much depends on what your infrastructure looks like, the kind of data you process. For example, if you process a lot of consumer data, you would want to look at the privacy topic or criteria. But this is something that our consultants are going to work with you to understand. So we'll dive deeply into your business to intimately understand that, what your clients are looking for and what they would want to see in a report, and help you establish this in the best serving, but also the most efficient way possible. So we got another one here. What happens if we have a tool that we don't integrate? This is a great question. And integration is super important for us to be able to automate and monitor the compliance. So the first thing that we're going to do is have a look at that tool and see if it's relevant in your SOC 2 scope. If it is relevant and it carries a lot of controls that we would want to connect with, Scytale is super agile with integrations, and we could definitely look at how we could bring that in or provide a timeline to be able to deliver that integration. Cool. See, we have a few more questions coming in. From the render, we are trying to gather all the policies needed. We're a small company, and there seems like there are so many policies needed. Are all these policies really necessary? Eventually, it all comes down to how you have defined your scope for the SOC 2 framework. If you're already in that position, if you've defined just security as part of your criteria, the level of policies is going to be limited. But yeah, there are some basic policies and requirements that you will have to have in place to get that at least audit report for SOC 2 with no deviations, which is kind of what you're going for. Which is better to do, SOC 2 type 1 or SOC 2 type 2? This is a great question as well, and it really comes down to your positioning. If you are not in a place of huge commercial pressure, I will always recommend to go ahead with a type 2. Given the continuous audit period or observation period that's required, it's got a lot more regard in the industry, and so it's always recommended. The only time I would recommend a type 1 is if you've got some extreme commercial pressure or urgency to get something in place as soon as possible. In that case, I would suggest a type 1. Natalia asks, is our product, I assume Scytale's platform, is it for the SOC 2 auditor or for the company being audited? This is a really good question as well. So the platform is, of course, designed for the company that is looking to achieve the SOC 2 report, because this is going to help them get there. But the auditors love our platform as well, because this is giving them a super easy way for them to conduct the audits and provide effective communication between the auditor and the company being audited. But eventually, Scytale's platform is designed for companies looking to achieve SOC 2 compliance. All right, I think that's all the questions so far. We'll just hang around for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes to see if anyone else has any last minute thoughts around that.